if you want to say something, put yourself on, comment, tell us where you're from. We'll get to you one way or another, and we'll give you a shout out and a salute. I'm going to start tonight by reading a sacred passage of scripture from the apocalyptic book of Revelation. And it's a passage towards the end of the book, quite a complex ancient script, content of the scripts, very symbolic, but very applicable to the future and possibly to some events today, where it says in chapter 21, verse 26, which is the second last chapter of the sacred script, and Jesus said, "It is done." Now, the words there, "it is done," is the same as the words that he used on the cross when he said, "It is finished," which is basically amen. Amen means it is done, it is finished, it will happen, it will be, it is what it is. That's what amen is. Amen's the seal of the authenticity and completion of what has been said or is promised to happen. And here Jesus says in Revelation 21:6, verse 6, "It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end." And there is so much in that I haven't got time to go into. But where it says in Genesis, in the beginning, God said, we must remember in the Gospel of John where it says the Word become flesh. And that Word, God's Word, when it did become flesh, when God allowed Mary's egg to be conceived with his Word, and Jesus of Nazareth was born, otherwise known as Emmanuel, God with us, from the Gospel of Matthew. That was the Alpha and the Omega of time, the beginning of time and the end thereof, of what will be the end of time. Christ Jesus, God with us, Emmanuel, manifesting himself to the limitedness of time as it was passing on earth in a human body. So eternity, God, the eternal God, decided to conceive himself in a finite woman, Mary, allowed his word by the Holy Spirit to be conceived in her, and the birth of what that creation was Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Jesus of Nazareth, Emmanuel, God with us. Not many people have gone to lengths to realize this, but eternity became limited to time in the person Jesus Christ, which was God with us. Now, not everybody believes that Jesus was God with us, and that's okay, but that's what the Bible says. And I'm not prepared to argue with that. I haven't got the time. I've tried to prove it wrong, and I've been proven wrong along with millions of others over and over again. So where he says, "I am the Alpha and the Omega," it goes in line with Psalm 90, verse 2, where it says, "From eternity to eternity." That's from Alpha to Omega. There is no end in eternity. There's no beginning or end in eternity. It says from eternity to eternity, God. So one thing we know about God, whoever you want to perceive him to be or as, his being is outside the limitedness of time and abides in a place called eternity where it has no restrictions of time. And I don't know how I've gotten onto this, but I have. This is the theologian coming out in me, and I do apologize. But the point I'm trying to make is that Jesus Christ is the Alpha and the Omega and the beginning and the end. And he says, "And I will give of the fountain of water of life freely freely without cost to him who thirsts. That's to him who wants it. Now, the point of my talk is be the Alpha and the Omega of yourself. Be the Alpha and the Omega of yourself. Well, what do you mean by that, Pro Bricky? Let me tell you what I mean. When a thought is conceived in your mind, when an alpha thought is conceived in your mind, have the foresight, use foresight, ask for discernment, ask for foresight to be able to help you see what the omega of that thought might be. Because if you ask, if you're thirsting and you come to the fountain of life, you will be given by the Spirit a certain amount of foresight that will enable you to see if the alpha or the origin of the thought relative to a purpose in your life or possibly to your health is worth initiating on the pathway to the omega of that thought, which is the end of it, the consummation of what the thought or the result of that thought may be. Now, not everything that we do, as I've said before, works out the way we want it to. It's just not how life works. But that doesn't mean things work out worse than what we would like them to. But we have to be aware that we have the capability of identifying alpha thoughts that come into our mind that are offering us a journey to an omega, a manifestation of that thought, and giving us the opportunity in one way or another to decide whether that's a worthy thought or not, whether it's worth pursuing or not. We have the privilege to decide whether that thought is worth pursuing or not. Now, how many times do you get a job and in the back of your mind you're purging, you're purging and you're going, should I or shouldn't I? Should I or shouldn't I? Or you price a job and you've underpriced it, you've gone in too cheap and you've realized and you're purging and you go, should I, shouldn't I? That's the journey between alpha. That's the and between alpha and omega. There's an and. There's a journey. There's a decision-making journey between the alpha and the omega thoughts of your life. Now, you might think this is hogwash, but it's not. It happens to us every day. It happens to us 1,000 times every day. What's that? You might have an alpha relative to your body. What's that pain in my side? Why am I feeling like this? That's an alpha thought. The and an omega is, what am I going to do about it? If I look to the omega of my thought, of myself, relative to that particular instance, which could be a bodily problem, a signal from the body, what is the outcome going to be from this alpha enlightenment for me to be able to get a positive omega outcome for something that I'm experiencing at the moment, and I'm taking it very seriously, is stomach and possible fatty liver. Now, how am I dealing with that? Well, I've done my research and got my medical advice, and I need to fast. I need to have a certain amount of water and fluid and some reputable supplements, but I need to fast, and I need to fast in a healthy way. Now, I'm used to fasting because I did it as a evangelist and an exorcist. That sounds crazy, but when you evangelize, you do find yourself confronted with all sorts of dark, evil spirits that tend to jump out at you and try and stop you from sharing life-changing information to people. Demons don't like that. They don't want that. That's why a lot of people that are running around are demonized and don't even know it, don't even realize, wouldn't know what to do, don't even believe in demons. And so I come to a point where I needed to take action on my stomach and a fatty liver. I needed to do that. I had an alpha revelation, the pains in my body, the fact that I couldn't lose my stomach, were signals and indications, the way I was feeling, were signals and indications that I needed to make a decision that was going to bring me a positive, Omega result. And I'm on that journey now. I'm fasting. I'm taking a certain amount of, I'm trying to eat one meal a day at 5 or 6 o'clock. And I'm taking of a morning water with some carefully selected and recommended supplements that don't interfere with the fast too much. Because what people got, hey, Pro, this is a big shout out to Anthony Blajic. Thank you for coming in. When did you become evangelized and what led you to do this? I had a very serious back injury in the later part of my apprenticeship. We were lifting a mixer on the back of a truck, a ute. We should have used planks, and it was just too heavy for us, and it fell and bounced, and I did the L5S1. This plagued me for years and years, and I decided to get a laminectomy disectomy. The pain became too much. And of course, when you're learning to lay bricks, where it was very competitive where I come from, and you had to perform, and the pain was just too much. I went in for a laminectomy disectomy, which didn't go very well. As a matter of fact, I would say it failed, to be honest. During the course of that time, I met my first wife, and her mother decided that she was going to go to church. A church run by a gentleman, a famous Australian photographer called Ken Duncan, invited her to church. Lovely man. Ken Duncan is one of Australia's famous photographers, a very close friend of Mel Gibson's. And I was watching the father of the wife, and he decided that at that point he wasn't going to go. So I was stuck between a rock and a hard place, because I'd come from my granddad was a Baptist, and this was a church where the pastor was a Hell's Angel. He had an offsider that was, could I say, somebody that's just lived a good, normal, decent life. Murray, tremendous man. And Ken Duncan, of course, who was an evangelist and bringing lots of people in due to his charismatic personality and successful photography business. I think actually it was a man who worked for Ken Duncan called Ian Mackay. Very, very charismatic man, Ian Mackay. So to cut a long story short, I decided that I was going to go to the church because my girlfriend at the time, who later became the wife and mother of the children, she decided that she wanted to go with the mother, and this concerned me. I thought, uh-oh, the father's not saying anything, so I can't say anything. What's going to happen here? Well, the daughter started going with the mother to church. Now, part of me thought that was good, and part of me thought that was bad, because I didn't know whether it was a cult or what was going on. It wasn't Baptist, and that's what was causing me concern. So I decided I was going to go to this church. So I went to a meeting, I had a beanie on, a pair of footy shorts, and a singlet. That was my attitude. I'm just going to go to have a look. I'm not going to get involved. I just want to see what's going on here. So off to the meeting we go. And I'm sort of, arms crossed, whatever. Well, at the back of the meeting, there was these strange people. Apparently, I found out later that one was a warlock and two were witches that were down the back of the meeting hissing. And the first thing I said to myself is, why aren't they kicking these people out? And so that was really bizarre. The next thing, they get up to sing songs, and the pastor, this was the good pastor, not the Hell's Angel, the good guy that seemed to get through life without any troubles, got up and started playing the guitar. And I kid you not, he couldn't play a note. He could not play a note. It was absolutely bizarre. And they're trying to sing along. The guy playing the guitar couldn't play the guitar, but they're singing along, nothing's wrong. And I've got witches down the back of this community hall, hissing and goodness knows what. The guy doing the music for the worship couldn't play the guitar, and the people singing the songs didn't know the words. This is the truth. This is the truth. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, is this some kind of a joke? So they get the pastor preaches his message, and I'm just, somehow none of it made sense, but it actually did make sense. It's really bizarre, isn't it? So we get to the end of the meeting and they say, does anybody that doesn't know Christ want to know? Got church misfits, mate. It was crazy. So you get to the end of the meeting and the minister goes, does anybody want to know Christ that doesn't know Christ? You need to be born again and all that. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, is he talking to me? Is this guy talking to me? Because I thought, hang on a sec, I'm not in this category. I'm not. Their university degrees, that's a diploma, bachelor, master's, doctorate in theology. So the preacher gets up and he goes, does anybody want to come out for prayer? So they go out for prayer. These people go out for prayer. I thought, I'm not fucking going out for prayer. I'm not leaving my seat. This place is mad. You got people hissing up the back and whatnot. And then they're saying, they're just ignoring these people. I'm thinking, why haven't they kicked them out? And the next thing, they're praying for these people. And this woman, this is the mother-in-law, falls backwards on this timber floor. She falls backwards and she hit her head on the timber floor like it was a bowling ball hitting the floor. I thought they've killed her. They've definitely, she's not going to get out of this without some kind of head injury. She's fallen backwards and hit her head on the floor like a bowling ball going down a bowling ball lane where the person hasn't let go of it on time and it's bounced on the bowling ball alley. It was horrible. And I'm sitting there and I'm starting to go, this is madness. Absolute madness. Right? It was really alarming, but somehow or other it was all making sense because nobody seemed to give a shit what was going on. They just wanted people to be prayed for and know Jesus, right? Well, after the meeting, you've got the deacons are smoking, and it was just you're right, Anthony, church misfits galore. So we left the place, and I have to say, I was rattled. It is hilarious. This is true, mate. This is dead set true. I've left the place rattled. I've left the place completely rattled, but I have to say it was bloody exciting because it was so fucked up. It was so fucked up. It made sense. The whole thing made sense, right? So I left it a week, and then I went back the next week. And to cut a long story short, I gave my life to Christ. I thought, fuck this, I'm in. How can this craziness be so sensible? And I come to Christ and the rest is history. But I haven't gone to church for a long time because it became monotonous and the pastor died and all that sort of stuff. And that's okay because you don't have to go to church. That's not the point. But that's a bit of the story of what happened. And it had to be that way. Like, how could the pastor be an ex-Hell's Angel? I'm standing there and going, how can the pastor be an ex-Hell's Angel? And how can he have a goody two-shoes assistant pastor that wants to follow him? And I tell you, this man, Barry Follett, was the wisest, loveliest old man that you could ever meet. He really was. He had restraint. He had patience. He never let our family down. He buried my mother and my grandmother. I think he buried granddad as well. And then he died himself from, what's it called when you breathe? Silicosis. Yeah, he died from that because he was a painter and it took him out. Very sad. But that's how I became an evangelist. Over the course of 15 years, I did a prison evangelism and street evangelism, which was very successful. I went into the prison under Ian Mackay and Jan Mackay. Jan Mackay is now dead. And the street ministry was taken over by Kenneth Duncan, the photographer. And that finished some years ago now. But Oh, they were good days looking back. Neil Joseph, artist, actually, he was a big evangelist as well. And we saw lots of miracles and lots of demons come out of people, very, very violent, vicious people, and we saw lots of things happen. But too much to go into now. So the point of the talk is being aware of the alpha moments in your life and being able to discern whether they're worth the omega, the journey to the omega outcome of those thoughts. Is the direction that you're going in really the direction that you need to be going in to get the outcome that you desire? I can't tell you how many times I've priced jobs and it's all too late and I wish I had to put more on them. I'll tell you something now. Okay, here's a little business secret. Right now, out in the field, I could be charging $75 an hour. Right now, I'm getting older. I've seen some terrible things happen, especially to the studies were supposed to take 8 years, but I did them in 4 years. Yeah, I really sunk myself into it. Seen some terrible things happen. The latest one being David Anderson going 2 stories through rotten planks. I'll never. It was. I don't think you ever get over watching somebody have that happen to him. And he was nearly out of the game too. I was just helping him to transition out of the game. But the point of what I'm about to say is I could be charging 70 an hour, and we made a decision. I made a personal decision that the boys and I are worth $100 an hour. I'm actually 130 an hour. That covers the workers' comp and public liability and the petrol and everything else that it costs to run the fucking business. And the boys get charged out as 100 an hour. And you know what? We get it. We get those rates. Why? Because we believe in what we do. We've paid the price for what we do. It's a hard job. I come home some days, I can't go to the gym. I've been ripped at, torn at, and there's nothing left in the tank. Maybe I'm cheap. Maybe there's bricklayers out there that are charging 120 an hour. I don't know. Why did you opt for bricklaying over a career in theology? Because I get $100 an hour, $130 an hour laying bricks, and theology's primarily voluntary. And it's a big shout out to Ashley Riley. A big shout out to Ash. Yeah, so bricklaying right now, the way things are, people don't want to do bricklaying. It's too hard. It's never been a better time to decide to become a bricklayer, because if you can easily get $100 an hour, easily, without arguing. And if you price lump sum, it's more than that. Yeah, I could tell you some phenomenal stories about prices that I've got. I laid 400 bricks on an insurance job. It took us 3 days. We knocked off at 1 o'clock and got $17,000 for laying 400 bricks through an insurance job. My second wife and I went to Eastern Creek to replace 10 bricks, and the insurance company paid me $5,000. We were gone by 9 o'clock. $5,500. And there's several of those stories where you can just be in the right place at the right time and do a good job and collect the money. There's big money in bricklaying. I remember my mother used to say, I've never known a poor bricklayer. I don't know if she knew any bricklayers at all, but she must have. And I couldn't work out what she meant, because when you don't know your value, you do undervalue your worth. But now that we're got some things in order in the financial department, we coast along now and all the bills get paid and everybody's got a bit of money in their pocket and are able to really try and get somewhere in life, because it's not easy for young people now. I really don't encourage people to become bricklayers because it's a really hard slog. It really is. And if you're not prepared to be fit and healthy in your mind and in your body, you're going to pay a really heavy price if you make it. If you make it, because you need all of your mind and all of your body every day, every time, every minute you're on that field, out in that field. Bricklaying, I just said to a customer, and I always say this to the two boys, if it can get you, it will. If there's a problem or something that can jump out and get you, it will. And you better be ready, because if you miss it, you'll be pulling shit down and you're going backwards, and people don't pay for people that go backwards. The skill and the craft of masonry work is so undervalued. The skill of it is so undervalued, and it's unfortunate, but it's the bricklayers' faults themselves, because a lot of bricklayers have got low self-esteem. You know why? Because they drink themselves fucking stupid and they don't look after themselves, and we lose our self-worth. It's all about self-worth. Everything comes back to self-worth, your self-worth. I was just on the phone to a famous country singer, a woman that lives here locally. I can't say her name, wouldn't be fair. But she's had some troubles in her life, not, just over devoted and over loyal to things that she ought not to have been. And she's got no self-worth left. We're trying to help her find her self-worth. Bricklayers end up with no self-worth because there are so many things that can jump out at you and embarrass and humiliate you that you miss. It eats away at your self-worth. Everything, relationships, the way we look after ourselves, the bills that come in, the things that we face, all of it, the way we treat our wife or our partner or even our pets, all comes back to our self-worth. All of it. Particularly the way we look after our mind and our body, because everything will come back to your mind, and your body can only follow what's given it by our mind. And that's what I mean by be the alpha and omega of yourself. Come back to yourself. Come back to the alpha part of yourself. That part of yourself that matters. That part of yourself that has worth. The part of yourself that you know is worth fighting for and putting boundaries up and going, no, that is not for me. That is not me. It has nothing to do with me. It's not going to help me. It's not going to assist me. No. No. Come back to the part of yourself where you value yourself enough to go, where somebody goes, oh, it's just a small job. There's no such thing as a small bricklaying job. You know that. You pull up, 4 hours fucking later, you're still frig-assing around. No. Don't fall for those words. Oh, it's just a little job. It's only 50 bricks. How do you price 50 bricks? Can you imagine a customer ringing up? I've got 50 bricks to lay in a hole that we've taken an air conditioning vent out of. What do you charge a brick? I just go, I'm sorry, excuse me. It's not about charging per brick anymore. That doesn't work. That's pub talk. It's about my time. An air conditioning duct, $600. $600. Thank you. And you get it every time. Every time. Do you know and the insurance people will know, but they won't tell you, the insurance brickies, a standard little letterbox that gets knocked over by a car, $2,200 they'll give you to go and fix it. $2,200. Now, why would you waste your time trying to build cottages when you can go and fix a letterbox for $2,200, and you're trying to fucking bash out 1,000 bricks a day on a cottage? If you won't get it. The average amount that a bricklayer lays on a cottage, and I don't care what you say, is 350 bricks. what the average works out at. And you've got to try and cover the labourer's wage with that as well. You have to charge hourly rate. You have to. 100 to 130 a bricklayer. If you're running the company, 130, 100 every bricklayer after that. And labourers, a minimum. I just charge the fucking labourers out as 100 also. I mean, it's at that point now. The cost of fuel and everything fucking else. And that could be cheap. We don't know what the successful brickies are charging. They won't tell you. They just won't tell you. But what I do know is if I charge less than that, I'm not running a business. I'm running a bloody charity. And it's too hard to run a charity, guys. Oh, people will argue it. How do you think you can get $100 a fucking hour as a bricklayer? Has anybody got a spare smoke? No. Fuck no. Bricklaying is a fucking professional skill. No different to the washing machine man who won't come round for less than $200 fucking dollars to look at your washing machine. Idiots. What about the cunt that sits on his ass at the computer? $220 an hour. Why is a fucking lawyer worth $600 an hour? A lawyer can't lay bricks. They've got no intention of laying bricks. They wouldn't be able to do it. Hi, can I ask what you think labourers are worth these days? Well, running it, what in terms of a wage? I think, well, my labourers get $400 a day. Have to put themselves through that shit. Labourers should get $350 to $400 a day minimum. They're destroying themselves doing the fucking job. Have to. But you charge them out at $100 an hour. Well, when you think about it, you know, it's not all that good a profit. By the time you cover their fucking super, workers' comp and everything fucking else, you've got $400 left to do that with. See, it's all way too cheap. A labourer has to be $100 an hour. You go, I'm kidding myself. Well, I fucking get it, or they ain't getting my labourer. $400 a day, I'd suck a dick for that. $400 a day is fuck all now for what labourers go through to supply bricklayers bricks and mud. $400 a day is fuck all, mate. There's bricklayers getting $600 a day in Sydney now because it's a hard job. People are starting to realise it's fucking hard, day in, day out. Perth is a joke. A shout out to Nora Farthing. Yeah, why is it a joke? Apparently it's a nice place to live. Is Perth a joke or are the bricklayers a joke? Because there's bricklayers over here that are starving and ending up owing money, and there's bricklayers over here that are smoking cigars. What's the difference? I had a Muslim bloke, we did a high-rise for him, ring me up last night. Rang me up out of the blue at 7:30. I was in bed with the girlfriend. Fucking who's it? Oh, I better answer it. I'm doing a job at so-and-so. What are your rates? Oh, well, it's fucking $300 for 3 blokes an hour. Oh. Okay, then I'm in bed. See ya. Don't play the game. Nora's saying, Nora Farthing, up to 2 years, 4 and 2. 4 and 2, yeah. 4 and 2 is a good combination, actually, because you can get a lot done with 4 and 2. So that'd be 4 and 2, that's $600 an hour. People don't want to pay it. You decide you're going to work for what you can get or you're going to run a business. And as far as I'm concerned, 4 and 2 is $630 an hour. We should be clearing $3,000 after tax a week. They are in Sydney. Some blokes are on 600 a day. What's that? 600 times 5 is $3,000. And I guess they'd be adding the GST to that. So they are getting that. I believe that some blokes are getting that in Sydney now. Sam. And a shout out to Sam Kennedy. I mean, the whole game's changing since COVID. Can't you see all the prices of fucking shopping and everything's gone up? Everything's gone up. Even fucking interest rates for those that have got a mortgage and that are struggling. How are you supposed to keep up? You've got to put up your prices. Like I keep saying, we don't know what the big guns are charging. I wouldn't be surprised if they're charging fucking $200 an hour per man. I don't know, but they're millionaires. You don't become a fucking millionaire just by charging $65 a fucking hour. They're millionaires. Is hourly rate better than getting per brick? Per brick never works. Some fucking bloke has woken up one morning and go, I'm going to charge fucking 50 cents a brick and see what we can do. And everybody followed suit and it never worked. Physically, per brick does not work. Before you start, you have to cover the labourer's fucking wage and then cover the costs of the business and then try and make a wage for yourself. If the average, you average it out, what a bricklayer lays per day in bricks in the average fucking scheme of things, it's 350 bricks a day. You're not going to make it. You're just not going to make it. You're going to be going fucking uphill with your finger up your ass. Sam Kennedy, I can't believe the demand for a brickie and yet wages lag. Wages lag because the brickies allow it to lag. Let's just say it. It comes back to self-belief. If I'm on here saying we're getting 300 an hour for the three of us, right? Me, Jordan and Jamie, 300 an hour, then I'm telling you, that's what I used to go around 15 years ago. I used to go around with my invoice book to the local bricklayers and show them my invoices and they wouldn't believe me. I was getting $5 a fucking block 15 years ago. Cunts would be pricing bricks. I remember, I'll never forget, a set of units at Empire Bay. A bloke put a quote in 600 1,000. I come in at 110 1,000 and got the job. And he come round, knocked on my door, and he goes, "How do you do that?" I've gone, "Do what?" He said, "I quoted that job at 600 1,000, and you've got it fucking for 100 for 1,010 1,000. How did you do that?" I said, "I asked for it." Belief, self-belief. Some people don't want the cheap guy. Some people are prepared to have the peace of mind to pay the big money for someone they can trust. If you've been in the game as long as I have, I got references everywhere that back up what we do. I'm not perfect. There's better bricklayers than me. I'm the first one to admit it, but come on. I know brickies that have been getting $90 an hour for fucking years. Per brick, Sam Kennedy, never works out. Exactly. You'll get a job and then find the labour is lugging bricks 100 metres. Nothing is ever straightforward. It's never straightforward. You cannot cover the variables that jump out at you per brick because the time that's lost laying bricks can't be made up. But it can be made up if you're on hourly rate because you're not losing anything. The bricklayer's taking these people for a ride. Michael Mayhew. I run a landscaping company. Wish I could charge hourly rate. I might not lose out on saying, why don't you charge hourly rate, mate? Plus fucking costs, plus the cost of supplies. Why not? Well, who's stopping you? Honestly, who's stopping you? I used to do lump sum all the time. I do lump sum jobs up to $300,000. Oh, yeah, you pay for the excavator, you pay for the footings, fucking steel and everything else. You know, but still come out behind. Say, how does that work out? I don't fucking know. Now we go to work like office people, just like office people. And we go in and we throw ourselves at it. And we're no fucking slower because we're on hourly rate and we're getting good feedback. Right? And if we have to get sand and cement and blocks and shit, we just add that on top plus 30%. So we're getting our hourly rate, cost of supplies plus 30%. Like, I mean, it comes back, Michael, to self-belief. Nobody should be able to tell you how to run. We get people ring up here and say, oh, it's just a small job. It's straight walls. Oh, you don't know what you're fucking talking about, mate. There is no such thing as a small concreting job, a small bricklaying job, a small fucking landscaping job. There's no such thing as a small roofing job. By the time you get there and fucking set up, it's hours involved. Not only that, if you drive from fucking Gosford to Newcastle or Sydney, What do they expect you to do? Do the small job and then drive off to somewhere else? No, they're taking your day. They're taking your fucking day off you. Do you understand that? Oh, we went to a job yesterday. Beautiful man. Runs a pool company up in Newcastle. I can't remember the name of it, or I'd plug it for him. But a wonderful man. Wonderful man. He just needed some help. You saw it on the Facebook page with a couple of courses, and then he was going to finish it himself. But even this man ran into things, jumped out at him while he was watching us that he couldn't work out why. Because it's not that fucking easy. We know it's not that easy. Lukey James, salute, Luke. Full credit to you, mate. You're a wealth of knowledge. Definitely taking notes on what you say. Luke, take the notes, but apply it, and apply it with confidence. I used to teach my apprentice, Kyle Lone. It's all about belief. He's got his own house now, Kyle, and he's done extensions to it. He's got his own big truck. Very successful young man. He listened, and he had other people help him at the end of his career as well. The customer always wants price on paper. Well, that's easy, isn't it? 3 men at fucking $300 an hour, $330 an hour. Well, how do you justify that? I'll tell you how you want to make it simple, guys. I'll tell you how you justify it. Each man is fucking $90 an hour, right? That's 9 threes at 27, and it costs $60 an hour to run the business for you to have my insurances and work cover and all the other shit you want. Because isn't your work cover premium worked out on what you make? It's not just a standard fucking annual cost. They work out the work cover fucking policies on what you make. So you've got every right to add $60 a fucking hour on what you do. Don't see, you're going to work with an hourly rate on yourselves, but you're forgetting about the costs of the business. Running the fucking business, Dale Watson says. We are on meter rate, residential scaffolding, hourly rate. Would probably be better for such a hard job. I don't know much about scaffolding. I know there's good money in it if you get it right. Got some very successful, beautiful men that run scaffolding companies, particularly Pat at Easy Access at Wyong. I'd thoroughly recommend Pat and Sean for any scaffolding job around here. And they've done very well out of it. James McIntyre, shout out and salute, James. Thanks for coming in, and shout out to Dale, Michael, and Luke. When I was an apprentice, the first thing I was taught was don't ask, don't get. Well, even Jesus said that, didn't he? He said, ask and you shall be given. Ask and you shall be given. But see, you won't ask if you don't believe. Are you worth $100 an hour? Are you worth it? The builder will say no, but are you worth it? They need you more than you need them. Well, the problem with that is they're going to ring somebody else that's going to come in for $65 an hour. This is the problem. I remember many, many years ago on the Central Coast, New South Wales, they decided to have a bricklaying group that was going to monitor who was charging what, and they were all going to charge the same. It didn't last a week. It didn't last 1 week, and people were charging shit all. You can't compete with people that are cheap. You've just got to believe what you're worth. We get it. You know, when I worked for Fusion and Simon Knott and all these people, they're millionaires. Now, I used to watch Fusion. What a machine. And I used to think, what's happening in the background of that company? One day I was listening and the foreman was on the phone to the office. Now, listen very carefully here, you bricklayer and business owners. This is fucking inside information. And get this, they were asking him how many man hours are in such and such part of that job. Not how many fucking bricks, not how many fucking blocks, not how much sand, how many man hours, listen, how many man hours are in that aspect of the job. That's all they wanted to know. So how were they charging? They were charging whatever their hourly rate was plus costs for materials add 30% or whatever. They could add fucking 70%. I don't know. Fusion gets fucking blocks and shit in by the truckloads. Did your evangelism help you know your worth? Yes. Yes, it did. Because I had to come back to myself. I'd lost myself. But you had Stevie Bush, Elite Bricklaying, covers the North Shore with excavation and bricklaying, and also the Central Coast as well. Give Steve Bush a ring, Elite Bricklaying. Steve says you have to make profit on each job, and he does make profit. This bloke, very clever businessman. Or you may as well work for someone else. 20 plus 30% markup on materials supplied. Very true. I always got taught 30% minimum, 33.3% minimum markup on materials. And I'm sure other people would possibly charge more, but it comes down to your personal preference. Michael Mayhew, thanks for your help trying to change my ways with my company. Just not working out the way I would have hoped. Never does, Michael, because it all comes down to pricing. All of it. All comes down to pricing. And you'll think, well, I'm not going to get the work. You might sit there for a week or two and go, fuck, I'm going down the gurgler, but I guarantee something will happen. It happens for us. Anthony Blajik, how did you lose yourself? Okay, how did I lose myself? Self-beliefs. I was always athletic. I was always had a girlfriend. I noticed that, these girls were loving me and I was kicking them to the curb. They do something stupid and I'd kick them to the curb. I wasn't a very nice person. And then I got married and that all didn't go too well. It did. We just seen her today she works at the clown shop. I asked her today, how the fuck did you end up in a clown shop? But she's going back to the dentist. That's the first wife. We all still get on, and that's the main thing. But how do you just lose yourself? You know what I mean? Don't tell me that you don't go home sometimes sore and fucking sorry, wondering what you're doing to yourself. You've got to pull your mind back. You've got to get your mind back, get your peace back. These are really important aspects. We abuse the fuck out of ourselves. Look, I used to get up, train at the swimming pool, right? Go to work, lay bricks all day, knock off work and be at the fucking surfing till dark. Fuck all night and get up and do it again the next day. You wear out. I wore everyone out. I wore myself out. I wore the women out. I wore fucking everybody out. But that's just how it was. You got to stop stealing. You've got to stop lying. You've got to stop, you've got to come back to the things that the old-fashioned values. They've taken them away from us. It's getting worse and worse. You look, everything starts from the top down. You look at the fucking lying, scheming, deceiving politicians. It's all signs of how the civilization of Rome went to the ground. Australia's fucking integrity levels are no different to third world. They cut the power. I was speaking to a South African today. They cut the power off of a night in South Africa at fucking 8 o'clock. They used to have 8-foot high concrete walls around the properties. They're fucking 15-foot high now. The black fellas drill pegs into the walls and climb the fucking walls and kill the farmers. We've got to come back to ourselves. We've got to come back to the health of our minds. What helped get your mind back? I gave in. I'll tell you what helped get my mind back. I gave in. I gave up. I fucking gave up. I gave up trying to be fucking the Iron Man. I gave up trying to be the stud. I gave up trying to be the fucking long distance, look at me, turning over whatever it was every fucking month and ending up, just completely fucking worn out. I fell down and gave up and decided that it was time to come back to myself. And it cost a lot to do that. It did cost a lot to do that, but I didn't do nothing. I gained wisdom. I tried to stay fit. I kept working here and there, but we can wear ourselves. Actually, for all I know, I fucking had a breakdown. I don't know. Something happened, and I knew that I had to come back to myself, and I did. I wanted answers. That's why I turned to God and all that other stuff, man. I surrendered my ego 100%. 100% surrendered my ego. I wanted to be good to my customers, but I needed to make a living. I wanted to come across as somebody that had integrity. I wanted to be a person of integrity. But there's a dark side in all of us. Let's not kid ourselves. It's fucking on our heels all the time, trying to mislead us. See, and this is where we've got to check our alpha, the origin of our thoughts, to make sure that we're going to end up at the omega that we need to be successful. That's why you've got to be the alpha and omega of your life. I think what Anthony just said then about surrendering your ego is one of the wisest things that anybody could ever say. Anthony, I think that should be a quote that goes into fucking brainy quotes and all that shit. Because anybody that can surrender their ego is going to get somewhere in life, man. And that's where we get into trouble. It's all got to do with our ego. Now, ego's good when it's used right, but when ego's misleading us, like I used to surf to the point where I'll tell you what, I don't know how I never got attacked by a shark. I used to paddle out and fucking on reefs on my own for hours on end, and I never got attacked by a shark. I had some funny feelings sometimes, but I never got taken. Anthony said, I'm learning all about this struggling to surrender. Hard to lose the old way of life. It is. Shout out to Ray ST, says, this is gold, brave, and surely big lessons. Thank you. I know what it was like when I was young. I didn't have a father to help me. The men that were teaching me, they taught me really well, but they were interested in their own sons. And I was always an outsider. It was like when I played soccer. The captain was always the coach's son, and you're always, an essential part of the side, but never able to impregnate that inner circle. Well, that was the same. It's been the same for me with brick and block laying. I've had some good men during my career, such as Robert Trabelsi, a terrific man who's done multi-million-dollar fucking commercial jobs, just spoke some things into my life and became and is a very good friend and mentor. It's people like Steve Bush from Elite Bricklaying that know money and know and do have strong values and a strong family unit and just by nature are able to keep these things together. I'm a bit of a wildfire. I have all the values and stuff, but I'm a bit of a wildfire. Like my last marriage, I was married to a very beautiful South African woman from Johannesburg. Never had an argument, but as soon as she crossed me with a son moved in, 21-year-old lazy fucking ass. They were gone in 10 weeks. They were out the door. I said, you got to go and house this cunt somewhere else. And she did, because blood's thicker than water. But it didn't worry me. I had a purpose and a plan, and if she wasn't going to play the game, you're out. What'd you marry me for? You've got to, to be honest, I don't even think marriage is worth it these days, because there's too many values that conflict with the marriage values, the values that marriage needs to have. Now, that might sound pessimistic, but it's not when you're losing $300,000 because some woman's decided that a lazy-ass son's more important than the fucking marriage. Yeah. I never did anything wrong. I was going to work to lay blocks in a wheelchair on crutches. Come on. That's a whole different another talk of what can happen to your hard-earned money. You got to be careful, really careful. People change like that. That's why I always say you've got to stick with yourself. You've got to be doing the best for yourself. And this is why I try and translate it into unselfish self-focus. You have to stay on yourself, right? And everything else will follow. And if it's not following, it's not meant for you. You don't run after the woman like you're the bitch. Yeah, you do the right thing and everything, but that is being the best that you can be with what you have. And sometimes it's not going to be fucking good enough for some people, and they'll run you into the ground. And the next thing you're fucking given all years and years of hard work before they even come along, they're running off with it. The way in which you've got to fucking navigate life now is not like it was 20 years ago. Women think it's funny to sleep around and fucking have 6 or 7 cocks going in them at the one time. There's no glory in that. Women think that it's great to have a career and, make more money than men. They may as well have dicks. A woman's job is to be there for the husband when he gets home, to help him to continue to be the best that he can be for the purpose of that family. But women want to be like men, right? We want to be like men. Well, men fucking built the cities and men did all the fucking hard work, and now they want to jump on the bandwagon. It's all fucking done. Oh, but when everything goes to shit, who's the first ones they turn to? They turn to the men. Oh, look, honestly, it's so ass up. You must, at all costs, focus on your mental health and your physical health, and just be damn well loving as best you can, but never, ever pedestalize a woman, ever. I had a famous Australian country singer on the phone this afternoon. It just so happens that I grew up with her. And she's a lesbian. I won't say who she is. But she's met this woman and she's I said straight away, you've over-validated this person. You know, when you see a woman, look, don't come up to her and go, oh, you got a nice fucking necklace, or gee, your tits, you got a nice fucking, that top's nice. Say to them, fuck, what's the go with that top? Or, hey, what's happening with that necklace and earrings? Don't fucking just validate them. Keep them questioning, guys. You're making it too simple. They want the fucking bad boy. Oh, that fucking dress just, where did you get that from? Not, oh, you look lovely in that dress, darling. They hate that. They're cruel. Underneath women are fucking horrible things, boys. I don't give a fuck how nice you think they are. If you give them too much, they despise you. There has to be an element of mystery. There has to be. It's not optional. Fuck, I was going to work in a fucking wheelchair running block jobs, and this fucking woman couldn't give a shit. All she cared about was a lazy ass son. She had to go and clean the toilet after him every time he did a shit. 21 fucking year old, 6'4". You fucking kidding me? Oh, get out. Get out. Go and house this cunt somewhere else. Cost me fucking hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I wasn't going to bend my principles. What are your principles? What are your principles when it comes to your pricing? Honestly, are you fucking worth it or not? Don't go to work and know that you're undercharging. For goodness sake, please don't. Have the courage to say, this is fucking hard and I've learnt this skill and this is what it's worth. I don't care if Joe Blow down the fucking road wants his drinking money. I'm trying to run a professional fucking company and I will, whether you like it or not. Oh, but no one's going to ring me. Someone's going to fucking ring you at some point and you'll build a reputation. I was laying blocks 15 years ago for $5 a fucking block. 15 years ago. So what was Fusion laying them for 15 years ago? Come on, guys. Come on. Hey? This is Pro Bricky. Make sure you fucking subscribe to the Pro Bricky exclusive YouTube channel. And if you haven't liked the Facebook page, we're trying to get more fucking followers than the National Australian Bricklaying fucking page. We're nearly there. We've nearly got 6,500, 7,000 followers. Keep liking and follow. Share the videos. That people aren't going to sit here and give away all this. We're going to go down to see Dean Kenny Dean Kenny's going to come on, and then if we're allowed, we're going to go down and go into his technical training facility to show you what he's doing with all the young bricklayers that are coming in. Never been a better time to become a bricklayer. There's too many lazy asses out there now that they won't do it. You are a special kind. When you go driving along and somebody sees you're a bricklayer, they stand back. They fucking know. They know how hard it is. These cunts are tough. You bet your life you guys are tough, man. Fucking bending your back all day on unlevel ground, tripping and fucking Christ knows what. Nah, come on, guys. Get some self-worth. Check the alpha thoughts so that you get a meager result for yourself, guys. It's not selfish to look after your health and to make sure your mind's right. Turn it around, guys. Honestly, turn it around. I'm fucking nearly 60 years old. I never drank or smoked the whole of my career. I've had everything thrown at me, mate. You must, when you get to this age, you must be at your optimum. Don't get to this age and say, fuck, I fucked it. I abused myself. Now I haven't got the strength. You have to have the strength, guys. And the only way you're going to do that is by looking after yourself now. This is Pro Bricky. Hope you enjoyed it. Like, share, subscribe to the YouTube channel and the fucking Facebook page. This is Pro Bricky out.